So do you notice like a big change with your students from like their freshman year to their senior year? Like how they
yeah, for sure. Students come in sometimes really not having a realistic perspective on what the media involves. They tend to notice only the media that they consume, which is like television and music and movies. But media is like a lot broader than that. So what I notice is that by the time they're seniors, if they've survived, they're still here, they're actually getting like a much broader idea of what it means to be a media worker. And that might involve design work, it might involve the internet, it might involve working public relations, it might involve doing presentations for drug companies. It's like the jobs that the majors end up getting are very not what I think a freshman thinks about when they come in. So there's that part. There's sort of like the real world perspective changes during the 4 years. And then also they sort of get all these like technical skills that they didn't have when they came in. They're used to looking at, now of course students of your generation are used to looking at YouTube videos a lot. And there's good YouTube videos and bad YouTube videos. Mm-hmm. And the ones that are really compelling and that really catch and hold and have an effect on people either have A, really interesting content, or B, they're put together with professional standards in place, So there's the YouTube video of that crazy wedding where the wedding party danced down the aisle. I don't know if you saw that one. It was a very whacked out video. Instead of just processing, they come down the aisle in a weird like dance routine. They dance like this, kind of like this. Right? And so that one had like, I think after the first week had like 2 million hits, and it ended up the people that put the wedding video up, which is somebody that was just when they were in the audience, they ended up using it to help raise money for charity, and it was like this totally, it was just like feel good all the way around, But students that come in looking at just plain old junk on YouTube and think, well, that's video. Like we had a guy that came in that made a video. Rob, you would know, it's Brian, right? He made a video about being towed behind trucks. Were you in that video class?
I wasn't, but I know the story.
He's getting towed behind. They go out like west of town. They get a bed. They attach it to the back of a pickup truck, and then they drive. And then he shot video of that, and I said, here's my video. And it's really kind of like, it's the Jackass influence, where it's like if I do something dumb and I tape it, that counts. And I had a photography teacher that basically said, you can turn in all the pictures you want, but you won't get any credit for pictures of your cat. Because your cat is cute, but cute doesn't cut it. It's got to be like an interesting photograph. And you may show it to your friends. I think it's lovely. This Brian may have shown his video to a lot of his friends when they were all drunk, and they all went, totally cool. But on the other hand, that's not going to cut it in the real world. It's okay for YouTube, but you can't make your living making YouTube videos. If you do, it's got to have really compelling content, not just people acting dumb and hurting themselves. It's got to be something beyond that,
So how do you feel that media arts students themselves are different from how do they distinguish from the other students on campus?
I think they're about the craziest students on campus, just about, They tend to have a slightly skewed vision of the world. I'm always amazed when I get a student that just kind of is really very straight arrow, and kind of has a really this extreme focus and is driven. And we do get people like that too, and it's almost like it's you can give them their degree, those people, but you can't, and you can give them some technique, but you can't really teach them the way you can teach the typical media student, which is that you let them loose and they do some things that are great, and they do some things that are awful, and you nudge them towards the good stuff. But it's a give and take, and it's a real communication process. And I've actually had students where I'm very proud of them as professionals. I think they're really good, but there wasn't much interaction during the time that they were here. So they're rare in our program. Most of the students are they're tabula rasa, they're kind of open books, blank slates, and they're wide open, in a lot of ways. I think if you were going into nursing, you have like a really specific, you have to be in nursing, you'd have to have like a really specific career-driven thing. You have to be really precise in everything you do. You're going to administer drugs to patients. It's got to be exactly the right drug and exactly the right amount. Whereas with us, it's like, well, try this, doesn't work, try something else, it's much more intuitive, less deductive, you know. So our students are intuitive and a little crazy, I guess. The way I say it.
Well, what's your most memorable moment from college?
When I was in college?
Yeah.
Oh, jeez. Well, at the University of Illinois, we had big cultural events, and students went to them. Students went. We didn't here at Wesley. Sometimes the cultural events are a bit. Well, they're low profile because it's a small school and there's only so much money to spend on them. But at a big school where you have like 30,000 students, you could really have some big events. And we had an event called Harpsichord, where a music professor named John Cage, who was a very famous avant-garde music composer, staged an event in a giant basketball arena called the Assembly Hall. It held 16,000 people. And it was 5 hours long, and it was very chaotic music that was played, partly from computers. This was back like then when the computer music was kind of new. There was no MIDI. Synthesizers were really complicated machines, and so he created this computer program that ran some things. Then he had 5 harpsichord players playing. Then he had people dressed in costumes. He turned out all the lights, and he put on black lights on people, and it was this giant, weird musical happening that went on for 5 hours. And I didn't know what it was about. I had no idea, and I think most people there didn't know what it was about. But it left like a permanent impression on my mind about the possibilities of art, what art could be, you know, and what music could be. And I didn't like it. That's the funny thing, is that I didn't like it when it happened. But now when you're asking me at the age of, when I'm 58 years old and you're asking me, I'm actually, you know, it's burned into my brain, that experience, you know, what it looked like, what it sounded like, and what it was like to be in a large group of people that were all experiencing that same thing. It would have been like, the equivalent today would be like a rave, except that it's not driven by dance music or something like that. It's driven by avant-garde, crazy, you know, modern music. Very strange experience. It really sticks in my mind.
Well, if you weren't teaching what you're teaching now, what do you think you'd be doing?
In the best of all possible worlds, I'd be a musician. If everything worked for me, if I always wanted to be a musician. I didn't really start playing. I play music now. I play harp, and I play at weddings, and I play at cocktail parties, and I play in a band, an Irish music band called Celtic Harvest. And back when I was in college, I desperately wanted to be a musician. That's what I really wanted to be. And but I didn't come from a background. None of my family played music, and I was kind of lazy. I didn't really have the discipline to learn to play the guitar properly, and so I had a lot of bad habits. And so I played music for my own solace, to make myself feel better. And I played music with friends, but I didn't really take music where I wanted to take it. You know, it really wasn't until I was like about in my mid-40s where I really started doing the thing that is what I consider the most fun thing to do altogether, which is play music with other people.